City of Utica. We're talking budget here, and there seems to be some discrepancies. Council people are coming and really kind of flying the red flag here. One of those is Councilman Joe Marino. Joe, good morning.
Good morning, Bill. How are you?
Good. So, first of all, I was hearing a lot of discrepancies, and you were quite critical, so talk about that.
Yeah, well, we've had a lot of issues this year with the budget, some of which were mundane, and but they drew some red flags to us. Just typos and mathematical errors, just things you wouldn't normally see on an official budget, and that kind of led to some bigger problems, some things that you'd see in lines that weren't normally there. For instance, we had lines from past years. When you see our budget, they have historic years. Some lines that actually weren't true. We had a law department line that said we used $750 last year, and then it got dragged down to $450 this year. And what that does is it makes it look like there's been a lot of frugal behavior in that line, and you think, $300,000 was cut out of it. So the appearance would be, hey, you don't take any more. There's a big chunk that's been cut out from last year to this year. Fact is, it was only $500,000 last year, so there's really not been that big of a cut. So things like that drew up some red flags and some questions. But the one thing that I think that you were talking about earlier is a $500,000 omission from the paving plan that we put together.
Yeah, so what happens? So, we're always hearing that great things are happening. We have $500,000 or $1 million surplus, whatever it is that is out there in a surplus. But now we're talking about a $500,000 shortfall when it comes to the paving deal. What's it all about?
Yeah, well, even the surplus, if you start there, if you look at our audits will give us our surpluses. They tell us, what actually happened throughout a given year. Everything that we do is unaudited. It's, unabashed until we get an audit. And when the audit comes through, it says, okay, you wanted to spend $69 million. You actually spent $68 million, so you have $1 million surplus, or vice versa. You can have a shortfall. Yeah. And our audit actually showed about a $1.5 or plus $1 million surplus. It was announced from the mayor and comptroller that it was a $750,000 surplus. Even that discrepancy alone is disturbing. Our audit shows a much bigger surplus than was announced this year. And what I've been saying about these surpluses is, it's not necessarily a great thing to constantly have these big surpluses, especially in a city our size. When we're, on a lean budget, it's not like we've been, frugal in our expenses or taking in extra revenue. So these surpluses sometimes tend to mean that we've overtaxed people, and that's, not necessarily a good thing. So in any event, we've had a few surpluses in a row, and what happened this year was we had $4.5 million of expenditure for paving when we had $5 million in revenue on the other side. So there's a $500,000 shortfall on where we're going, and that would, look, the people voted for a $5 million paving bond. Yeah, they, came together. We all talked about it. It was, almost nauseating how much it was talked about leading up to a vote. People voted on it resoundingly, and thanks to Ed Buchero and Sam Colosimo, who actually found the shortfall to begin with. And Ed Buchero is the one that you see proposing this $500,000 amendment to get the money back in there. We've got time, because I think that, it's unfortunate that for whatever happened, whether it was the administration omitting it for X number of reasons, I don't know what it is.
Because we do know that the mayor's office was against the paving project.
Exactly right.
So now, mysteriously, we were talking about a surplus, and now we're talking about a shortfall of $500,000. Do you think that's done on purpose?
Well, look, I don't know if it's done on purpose. I certainly can tell you this. There wasn't a giant effort put forward to make sure that everything worked out, right? So even if you take the $750,000 surplus and this $500,000 shortfall, there was plenty of money to put this in there. I mean, even with the surplus alone, you could say there was a $250,000 surplus. So there was clearly money available for this to have happened. Again, when people say, there's a 0% budget, why even looking at it? Why even go at it? Well, and I think that was, part of a tactic that could have happened. Okay. Or not. Well, we're going to ask some questions about it today. Got a long meeting to go tonight, but I'll tell you this: at the end of the day, due to some pretty fine financial work from a lot of people on the council and a few others around City Hall. We found the $500,000 problem, and the people will get their $5 million in paving like they deserve and like they voted for.
All right, I want you to sit tight. I'm going to take a quick break and come back. We'll add Samantha Colosimo Testa to the mix here. Bring her in. Hold tight. Coming back in 2 minutes on WIBX.